I was in a relationship once where the person was like, well, you think I drink too much? Where you smoke too much weed? And I said, okay, let's both take all our shit and throw it in the trash, and we won't do either for like 3 months, 6 months, how long you want to go. And I just took all my shit, threw it in the trash, and I was like, I'm over it. And they were like, well, that's easy for you just because you have strong willpower, but that's just who I am. When someone says that's just who I am, like, that means when you say that's who I am, you have incorporated that into your identity so close that you can't tell that drinking isn't you, or smoking weed isn't you, or whatever it is that you do. Bodybuilding isn't you, or whatever.
That was my first separation from identity there.
Yeah, I'm serious. And probably prepared you for others, but so definitely, I like what you were saying about, then there's a whole strategy to getting off and why and what you go through. I want to talk about, but I want to at least bring people to the door of
thank you.
If you even get to the point to even consider stopping, because when you think about it rationally, what's the worst thing that can happen to you if you stop smoking weed? And that's really what we're going to talk about now, which is you may face anxiety. You're going to be irritable. You're going to have shitty sleep for a couple of weeks. Like,
not to mention, you've said this really well. Just because you stop smoking weed doesn't mean your life's going to immediately get better. There's probably a lot of things that you have been neglecting.
Yes.
And now you actually have to raise your awareness to see what are all those things that I've been putting off.
Fix them.
And actually fix them from the fucking get. Otherwise, weed is going to be right back in your life immediately because you don't know any other way to deal with anything.
We kind of need to give some actionable items, I think too.
So.
Like, actionable item number 1 is, how do you feel when we say we dare you to stop smoking for 90 days? How does that make you feel? And if you actually had to do that this second, like, go to wherever you're keeping your shit and toss it all in the trash, or give it to a friend or whatever.
What would that create?
What does that? How does that feel like? That's step number 1, and that's your first little check. Like, do a test, Then if you get to that point and say, shit, you realize I do want to attempt to smoke less.
Yeah.
Then you got to figure out, yourself hopefully well enough to know what your personality is like, to see what should you do.
Yeah.
Should you go cold turkey, or should you try to slowly wean yourself off of it? But I also think problems with weaning yourself off of it, like, my philosophy behind it is, and it may not be everyone's, but is that to wean myself off of it, because I already need a tolerance break, smoking less and less is, I'm not even going to feel the benefit. Yeah. And it's just putting off. If I just go hard at it for 2 weeks, as we know, after the first 2 weeks is the roughest time period, the first 2 weeks when you've been smoking regularly, up to 30 days, but definitely the first 2 weeks. Let's just get it out of the way. Otherwise, I'm going to take 6 months getting down to zero. Yeah. And as I come down to zero, I'm going to be smoking and not getting the benefit that I got before, because I'm using less and less THC.
And I only use that analogy because once you start to see that, okay, I'm able to smoke only once a day. So why the fuck can't I go a whole day? If I haven't smoked for 23 hours and I smoked in the last hour of my night before bed, why couldn't I have just completed the 24 hours and see how I am the next day? And that gets people encouraged enough to be like, yeah, that makes sense. Why? Okay, let me just go a day without it. Now that you've gone a day without it, why can't you go another day without it? Now you start to see, like, okay, you're building momentum. So it's kind of like just it's a negotiation tactic.
It's very much like weight loss.
Yeah.
I see the parallels kind of with the bodybuilding and the weight, in the sense of, like, when you're 50 pounds overweight, it is damn hard to get started working out because you haven't been doing it. You've been, just overeating and not exercising. And so the momentum to get started is so difficult. In fact, your body's fighting against you. You're more estrogenic because you have all this extra body fat. Your metabolism's down, right? So it's just tough to climb out of that.
And that's where one of the recommendations, which is always number 1 in my Discord community, is start meditating. Because if you have any anxiety about yourself, like getting off of weed and what that's going to create for you, and you feel like, I don't know how to handle myself if I don't smoke, start meditating. Your first meditation could be something that you're like, okay, now I'm back to feeling calm again. Now you have another strategy, because before you had no other strategy outside of getting high to change your state.